Welcome to week 3 of the Book of Mormon. Now, in this particular week, we will be going over chapter 2 of Teachings of the Living Prophets and talking about really the requirements, the blessings, and the responsibility of having a current prophet in our midst. First off, I'd like to circle back about some of the experiences I had in week 2 as I read your comments about the conference talk that you liked the most. I want to just mention that I was deeply impressed with several of your comments and the stories that you have, the insights you have, and really your ability to take these conference talks and apply them to your lives, which is really what we should be doing, is approaching conference in the spirit of prayer and revelation and looking to how these talks apply to you. There are several cases of feedback that I received, how talks helps you to go through a trial or to put a trial in perspective. Every one of these talks were inspired, and so as I read through your comments, I was deeply impressed and wanted just to share that with you. I also wanted to share with you, or maybe request from you in the future as you provide feedback, you just copy it and paste it into iLearn rather than a Word document. Word documents are a little bit more difficult and awkward to work with within iLearn, and so if you could do that, I would appreciate that. Now, as we look into chapter 2, one of the things that I wanted to talk about were some of the highlights of things that I read and it jumped out to me that impressed me. And the first thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about was the story that President Kimball had as he went to Denmark, and I think most of us had heard this story before, but just to recant it, he was in Denmark meeting with the mission president and with the state president. They went to a church in which there was a sculpture of the 12 apostles with keys. And as President Kimball saw this, he eventually commented and testified to the local caretaker that he was the one that holds these keys. And what a tremendous gift that is for us, to know that there is an individual, a living oracle today, that holds those priesthood keys, and that we are privileged to know this individual. As I was in Rome several years ago, there was another church there, the Church of St. Peter, that had Peter in a chair holding keys. And I remember looking at that and recognizing that yes, Peter held these keys, and that succession of keys is with our church. And what a great blessing that truly is, in order to know and understand that. Now, as we move into the chapter, there are a couple things that I wanted just to point out. One of them that I think is very key. This statement here: by the authority vested in him, all ordinances of the gospel are performed, all teachings of the truths of salvation are authorized, and through the keys which he holds, salvation itself is made available to the children of men. It is our prophet that is the presiding high priest to the church, just like a stake president is the presiding high priest to a stake. He is the one that holds all priesthood keys. When the sealing power is given, it goes through the first presidency and the prophet. When any priesthood keys are administered, even to the point of a bishop being called, it is through the first presidency. And so what a blessing it is to understand what those keys are and why it's important that they are given to each of us through the prophet. Now, President Benson made a statement that I had to really think about, because there are times in which maybe I don't take the general conference with the same seriousness as I should. He goes on and states here, of all mortal men, we should keep our eyes most firmly fixed on the prophet. A good way to measure how our standing is with the Lord is how deeply and carefully we listen to his servants, the prophets. And so, it's easy for us sometimes to listen and read Nephi, or to read Paul in the New Testament, but are we listening to and heeding the words of our modern leaders? If we are not, then perhaps our standing before the Lord is in question. We need to lead them and listen to them first. And then, again, there was a story that Brigham Young talked about, where Joseph asked Brigham to stand and talk about the role and responsibility of listening to living leaders. He then placed on a table the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and said, as important as these are, these mean nothing to me compared to what is being taught by our living prophet. And so, again, it's just a reminder to us just how important it is, how key it is for us to listen to our leaders. Again, a statement here that our living prophet's words take precedence over other statements made on the same issue. I don't oftentimes think of that, but when we do our scriptural reading and our reading every day, maybe we need to not just supplement, but oftentimes put the Book of Mormon and Bible down and read for a week and study General Conference. And so I hope that we are doing that. The Lord will never permit the living prophet to lead the church astray. I've also had non-members ask me, well, how do you know if this prophet is true, is accurate? Maybe the prior prophet's different than this prophet. And it goes on by stating here, and this is a quote, that the Lord will never permit me or any other man, and again this is Wilford Woodruff speaking, who stands as president of the church to lead you astray. What a great blessing that is. We don't need to wonder if we hear some things from our church leader that maybe are difficult for us. We don't need to wonder if those things are truly what the Lord would want or not. We don't need to question that. We can realize that if it's from the prophet, it has literally come from the Lord, and those messages that he is saying come from the Lord through the prophet, not from the prophet. What a key difference that is that Thomas Monson and the statements that he makes come through him, not from him. Again, claiming a belief in dead prophets while rejecting living prophets is a pattern in Earth's history. We can go back to the earliest of times when we see the Old Testament prophets being stoned and by the leaders saying, we believe in Moses, not you. When the Samaritans broke off, it is because they only believed in the writings of Moses and did not adhere to the writings of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and others. Think about what Jesus went through when he tried to claim who he was, and how their statements were. And again, this is what they said to him: Thou art his disciple, meaning that they're speaking to the 12 apostles. Thou art his disciple, but we are Moses' disciple. We know that God spake unto Moses. As for this fellow, Jesus, we know not from whence he is. So it is a trait of the world to only accept dead prophets that have been proven, and not living prophets that are in our midst. So as I think about this, I am grateful for what it means to understand what a living prophet is. In one more story here that I thought was interesting, it was Elder Lee who talked about how he had been with some non-member who had read the Book of Mormon, and this individual was very well known and very, very articulate. He thought many good things about the Book of Mormon. Finally, it was President Lee and the local mission president who said, well, if you believe these things, why don't you accept the church? And then his response was remarkable. He said, it's because of Joseph Smith. Joseph Smith lived too close to my time for me to be comfortable in believing that he was a prophet. So hopefully, with our prophets living very close to us, we can look at them as what they are, living oracles of God, and that we can drink deeply from their messages of General Conference. I hope you enjoy this week. I will look forward to listening to what you have learned and corresponding with you. Once again, as always, if you have any questions or if I can help you in any way, let me know. And have a great week.